Last time we finished reading this sutta, the refinement of the mind. Today we are going to continue with number 5, the removal of distracting thoughts. This sutta is suitable for those who are easily distracted. Actually, I'm very easily distracted too, especially in the era of, the phone, and the social media, all this. I call them the short burst entertainment, where it's very easy to, just put on Facebook or YouTube and then just scroll through infinitely and waste hours upon hours. So let's see what the sutta says and hope it can help some of us. Thus have I heard. On one occasion, the Blessed One was living at Sawati in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's park. There he addressed the monks thus. Monks, Venerable Sir, they replied. The Blessed One said this. Monks, when a monk is pursuing the higher mind, from time to time he should give attention to 5 signs. What are the 5? Okay, footnote number 18. P.S. The commentary says the higher mind, Hadiccitta, is the mind of the 8 meditative attainments used as a basis for insight. It is called higher mind because it is higher than the ordinary good mind of the 10 wholesome courses of action. The 5 signs, nimitta, may be understood as practical methods for removing distracting thoughts. They should be resorted to only when the distractions become persistent or obtrusive. At other times, the meditator should remain with the primary subject of meditation. Okay. The first sign, here, monks, when the monk is giving attention to some sign, and owing to that sign, there arise in him evil, unwholesome thoughts connected with desire, hate, and delusion. Then he should give attention to some other sign connected with what is wholesome. When he gives attention to some other sign connected with what is wholesome, then any evil, unwholesome thoughts connected with desire, hate, and delusion are abandoned in him and subside. With their abandoning, his mind becomes steadied, internally composed, unified, and concentrated. Just as skilled carpenter or his apprentice might knock out, remove, and extract a coarse peck by means of a fine one, so too, when a monk gives attention to some other sign connected with what is wholesome, his mind becomes steady internally, composed, unified, and concentrated. Footnote number 19. P.S. again, when thoughts of sensual desire arise toward living beings, the other sign is the meditation on the unattractive nature of the body. See text chapter 8, section 8.10. When the thoughts are directed to inanimate things, the other sign is attention to impermanence. When thoughts of hate arise directed toward living beings, the other sign is the meditation on loving kindness. When they are directed to inanimate things, the other sign is attention to the elements. See text chapter 8.8 section 12. The remedy for thoughts connected with delusion is living under a teacher, studying the Dharma, inquiring into its meaning, listening to the Dharma, and inquiring into causes. So each one has its own corresponding pair, and for inanimate objects and for living beings is separated. Okay. For desire, if it's living beings, you can meditate on the unattractive nature of the body. If inanimate, you can meditate on impermanence, attention to impermanence. When the thoughts of hate arises, you can meditate on loving kindness. If it's inanimate, you can meditate on attention to the elements. And then for delusion, it's just one. Study the Dharma. Live under a good teacher. That's the first one. Sister Choi Kwan, would you like to continue?
Second point. If while he is giving attention to some other sign connected with what is wholesome, there still arise in him evil, unwholesome thoughts connected with desire, hate, and delusion, then he should examine the danger in those thoughts thus. These thoughts are unwholesome, reprehensible, resulting in suffering. When he examines the danger in those thoughts, then any evil, unwholesome thoughts connected with desire, hate, and delusion are abandoned in him and subside. With their abandoning, his mind becomes steady, internally composed, unified, and concentrated, just as a man or a woman, young, youthful, and fond of ornaments, would be horrified, humiliated, and disgusted if the carcass of a snake or a dog or a human being were hung around his or her neck. So too, when a monk examines the danger in those thoughts, his mind becomes steady, internally composed, unified, and concentrated. Thank you.
Thanks, Sister Choi Kwan. Now the second way, if after doing the first one, if after giving attention to the other sign, some other sign, it still doesn't work, there still arise in him evil, unwholesome thoughts connected with desire, hate, and delusion. Then the second way, we should examine the danger in those thoughts. Let me highlight this again. What exactly are the dangers? These thoughts, these evil, unwholesome thoughts, are unwholesome, reprehensible, resulting in suffering. But this is how, the second way, how we can contemplate and remove the distracting thoughts. Examine the danger. Okay, Sister Shomei, would you like to continue?
Part 3. If while he is examining the danger in those thoughts, there still arise in him evil, unwholesome thoughts connected with desire, hate, and delusion, then he should try to forget those thoughts and should not give attention to them. When he tries to forget those thoughts and does not give attention to them, then any evil, unwholesome thoughts connected with desire, hate, and delusion abandoned in him and subside. With their abandoning, his mind becomes steadied, internally composed, unified, and concentrated. Just as a man with good eyes who did not want to see forms that had come within the range of sight would either shut his eyes or look away, so too, when a monk tries to forget those thoughts and does not give attention to them, his mind becomes steadied, internally composed, unified, and concentrated.
Thanks, Sister Xiaomei. Here, the third way, pretty straightforward. Just try to forget the thoughts. Don't give attention to them. But this sounds easier than practically doing it. So, for example, let's say there's a bowl of ramen in front of me. I should shut my eyes, walk away. But of course, the better way is, of course, not walk into the ramen shop. So here the analogy given is a man with good eyes who did not want to see forms had come within range of sight, would either shut his eyes or look away. And that's the third way.
Sorry, this is during meditation, right? During our sitting.
It doesn't have to be. It can be on our day-to-day life as well. Whenever, yeah, sorry.
I think if it is not during sitting, it's still got hope lah. It's still not so bad, because if you want to forget about something that is, say, unwholesome, you can move your attention by going to work on something wholesome.
Yes.
But if you're sitting, well, that's where the struggle is.
Actually, we can do it while sitting too. Let's say the thoughts of desire arise. Then in the sitting, we can meditate on the counter itself. For example, the thoughts of ramen arises. Again, I use a bowl of ramen. And then, because ramen is inanimate object, the first method is to contemplate on the impermanence of the ramen itself. The taste of the ramen is just temporary. After 5 seconds, the taste is gone. And the second way, we explore that, examine the danger in these thoughts. When having a desire for a bowl of ramen, eventually, when I crave the ramen again, and I am not able to get the ramen, for example, at 11 p.m. and then suddenly I thought of ramen, but the ramen shop is closed. So there is where the suffering comes from. And during meditation itself, we can also counter it in this way. Does it make sense?
Actually, during meditation, sometimes I do have thoughts of people, like sometimes there are people that we hate.
Yep.
We hate them, they have done something to us. But then I try to divert my thought into something good about the person instead of thinking about bad of the person. So it does help a bit. If not, there's no good, then just leave it and think about other things. Just think that when you keep thinking about it, it may hurt ourselves more. We will suffer more. Then we'll just let it go. That is how I experience it. Yeah. Thank you.
Very good. Thanks for sharing, Sister Chekon. So Sister Chekon has already applied the number 1, using loving kindness for the person that the thought arise, that the hate arise to that person. Sister Chekon used something good in that person, loving kindness. And then Sister Chekon also contemplate with what is the danger? What is the suffering? So Sister Chekon has already used the first 2 methods. And then she tried to forget it using the third method. Does it make sense, Sister Xiaomei? Okay, let's continue reading then. Sister Aikim.
Point 4. If, while he is trying to forget those thoughts and is not giving attention to them, there still arise in him evil, unwholesome thoughts connected with desire, hate, and delusion, then he should give attention to stilling the thought formation of those thoughts When he gives attention to stealing the thought formation of those thoughts, then any evil, unwholesome thoughts connected with desire, hate, and delusion are abandoned in him and subside. With their abandoning, his mind becomes steadied internally, composed, unified, and concentrated. Just as a man walking fast might consider, why am I walking fast? What if I walk slowly? And he would walk slowly. Then he might consider, why am I walking slowly? What if I stand? And he would stand. Then he might consider, why am I standing? What if I sit? And he would sit. And he might consider, why am I sitting? What if I lie down? And he would lie down. By doing so, he would substitute for grosser posture one that was subtler. So too, when a monk gives attention to stilling the thought formation of those thoughts, his mind becomes steady internally, composed, unified, and concentrated. Okay.
Thanks, Sister Hakim. The fourth method here, he should give attention to stilling the thought formation of those thoughts. What exactly is this? Let's take a look at the footnotes number 20. Vitaka Sankhara Santanang, glossing Sankhara here as condition, cause, or root. PS interprets the compound to mean stopping the cause of the thought. This is accomplished by inquiry. When an unwholesome thought has arisen, what is its cause? What is the cause of its cause? Such an inquiry slows down and eventually cuts off the flow of unwholesome thoughts. So here, the fourth method, we use an inquiry. Ask the reason why such a thought arises. What are its causes? And then further inquire, what are the cause of the causes? This is the fourth method. Give attention to stilling the thought formation of those thoughts. Okay, Sister Billy, would you like to continue?
Number 5. If while he is giving attention to stilling the thought formation of those thoughts, there still arise in him evil, unwholesome thoughts connected with desire, hate, and delusion, then, with his teeth clenched and his tongue pressed against the roof of his mouth, he should beat down, constrain, and crush mind with mind. When, with his teeth clenched and his tongue pressed against the roof of his mouth, he beats down, constrains, and crushes mind with mind, then any evil, unwholesome thoughts connected with desire, hate, and delusion are abandoned in him and subside. With their abandoning, his mind becomes steadied, internally composed, unified, and concentrated. Just as a strong man might seize a weaker man by the head or shoulders and beat him down, constrain him, and crush him, so too, when with his teeth clenched and his tongue pressed against the roof of his mouth, a monk beats down, constrains, and crushes mind with mind. His mind becomes steadied, internally composed, unified, and concentrated.
Thanks, Sister Billy. Here, the last method, the last resort, is actually a physical one. With his teeth clenched and his tongue pressed against the roof of his mouth, to beat down, constrain, and cross mind with mind. Very violent, but if nothing else works, all the mental method doesn't work, it's time to resort to a very basic method, physical one. If you try to, tell your kids to do something, it doesn't work. The last resort. Okay, so that's all the 5 methods. Okay, here is the summary. So Sister Saikyang seems to be on the phone. Are you able to read?
I try to.
Okay.
Monks, when a monk is giving attention to some sign, and owing to that sign, there arise in him evil, unwholesome thoughts, connected with desire, hate, and delusion. Then, when he gives attention to some other sign connected with what is wholesome, any such evil, unwholesome thoughts are abandoned in him and subside. And with their abandoning, his mind becomes steady, internally composed, unified, and concentrated. When he examines the danger in those thoughts, his mind becomes steady, internally composed, unified, and concentrated. When he tries to forget those thoughts and does not give attention to them, his mind becomes steady, internally composed, unified, and concentrated. When he gives attention to stilling the thought formation of those thoughts, his mind becomes steady, internally composed, unified, and concentrated. When, with his teeth clenched and his tongue pressed against the roof of his mouth, he beats down, constrains, and crushes mind with mind, any such evil, unwholesome thoughts are abandoned in him and subside. And with their abandoning, his mind becomes steadied, internally composed, unified, and concentrated. This monk is then called a master of the causes of thoughts. He will think whatever thought he wishes to think, and he will not think any thought that he does not wish to think. He has severed craving, flung off the fetters, and with the complete penetration of conceit, he has made an end of suffering. This is what the Blessed One said. The monks were satisfied and delighted in the Blessed One's words. Majjhima Nikaya, number 20, such a long, Vitaka Santana Sutta.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thanks again from reading despite on the phone. So the last paragraph here, number 8, is the summary for us. So again, the first one, he gives attention to the other sign connected with what is wholesome, the first one. The second one, he examines the danger in those thoughts. The third one, tries to forget them. Tries to forget those thoughts. The fourth, gives attention to stilling the thought formation of those thoughts. And the last one, the last resort, physical one. With his teeth clenched and his tongue pressed against the roof of his mouth, he beats down, constrained, and crosses mind with mind. Okay. When we are able to do this, the monk is then called a master of the causes of thought. He will think whatever he wants to think, and he will not think whatever he does not wish to think, whatever thought he does not wish to think. Okay, with that, we finish reading this sutta. Anything you'd like to add? Any questions or comments?
I have a question.
Yes.
Not sure whether we should do this in a systematic way. That means step 1, step 2, step to the last, or we can choose as and when we like, and the one, always do the one that's most effective to us. Not sure about that. That's my question. Thank you.
Usually in the sutta, the order usually does have meaning. So the way the Buddha ordered something, in this case, the most important one or the most effective one, the Buddha put in the first order, and then with the starting to get less effective, the Buddha will put second and then third and so on. Yeah. So I would say best is to use it in order. Only when it doesn't work, try the next one. But that's a very good question. Yeah. This one I learned from Ajahn Brahman. He is the one who mentioned that the sutta order usually have its meaning. From the most important to the least important.
Actually, I realized that the Buddha is very methodical. He has a way of, he has his reason for doing so. And if we go back to something as basic as, say, the 5 precepts, they actually have a sequence. I always, for the longest time, think that, oh, okay, so not taking lives is a no-brainer, right? Because of compassion and so forth. Then I wonder, no, for the longest time, I wonder why the speech part, false speech, it doesn't come as a second, because it's like theoretically easy to do. But then we know that because then the stealing comes, right? Stealing comes as second one. Stealing is related to the third, sexual misconduct. Well, that's my personal take on it. You know?
Okay.
Yeah.
How is stealing related to sexual misconduct?
You don't steal another's partners. That's the most basic.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
how I saw it.
Yeah.
And then after that, sequentially, I noticed everything has its sequence.
That's a good observation. And you notice the Noble Eightfold Path too has its sequence until the right concentration, which is the highest. But thanks for the question, Sister Billy, and thanks for the comment, Sister Shomei. Anyone else would like to add? It's a good question. If not, would Sister Chekon like to do the dedication?
回向，见消三障除烦恼，愿得智慧真明了，不愿罪障悉消除，世世常行菩萨道。
Thanks, Sister Chekon. Till we meet again, may we be guided by the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Have an undistracted Monday ahead. Thanks, everyone. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.